Okay, all right. Well, welcome everyone to our second match. I am going to allow our chief judge just to give you a little briefing as to how the match will work. I know some of you would be familiar with this already, but for the purposes of the audience who may be visiting with us for the first time, I'm going to allow her to do a quick briefing. Our chief judge this afternoon is attorney at law, Miss Stacey Ann Young. Go ahead, Miss Young. We're not hearing you. Stacey, you're muted.
Oh.
All right, we're hearing you now.
Okay, hi, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, students, sponsors, my fellow guests. We are here again this afternoon for what I believe is going to be a very, very, very interesting match. Our first quarterfinal match had us on the edge of our seats, and I anticipate, because I have seen both of these two teams performed before, and I do anticipate that they will be giving us a very heated debate this afternoon. I know that both schools, Ruseas and Mount Alvernia High, are also based in the West, so they are very knowledgeable. They would be able to speak on the issue, the move that is before us this afternoon. But before we start the competition, I would just like to have a visual of the teams. I don't know if Jamie can show me the teams, so I can see that everybody is in place and that they are right, because we have to, even though we're not face to face, we have to ensure that we can see the teams at all times to ensure that the contest, the competition is being conducted fairly, because you don't want anybody to, move away or for anybody to be given an unfair advantage. So I can see 1.5 of the Ruseas team. Mount Alvernia, I was seeing you very clearly. I need to see more of the Ruseas team. We have to have a visual on you at all times. I'm seeing 2 now, so we need to see the third speaker for the Ruseas team.
No, I'm seeing all 3 members for the Ruseas team, Judge.
Pardon? I'm seeing two. I'm seeing one. I'm seeing 2 persons. I'm not seeing the third person. I'm seeing the podium and I'm seeing 2 persons. We need to see the third person.
We are seeing the third person. They're all there. Chief Judge, I don't know.
I think it's this. I'm not sure if it's the screen, but okay. If you're seeing all 3, Michelle?
Yes, they're all there. They're all there.
I'm not sure why my screen is different, but okay. So the other judges are able to see, because I'll have to ask your assistants to be able to monitor what is happening. Okay, Danielle is indicating she's seeing all 3 as well. So we're gonna continue. All right, so this is not your first rodeo, you are aware. You have Mount Alvernia proposing the moves, and Ruseas High will be opposing the moves. The first speakers, all the way around. Okay, so Ruseas High will be proposing the moves, and Mount Alvernia High will be opposing the moves. The first speakers will have 7 minutes, the second speakers 5 minutes, and the third speakers 3 minutes. This is a parliamentary style debate, and so the first set of speakers, the Ruseas team would be the government, and Team Mount Alvernia will be the opposition. But you know that when you have started the debate, The first minute is protected, so you can't interrupt a point of information in your first minute, and the last minute is also protected time. The points of information, you are going to be judged on the way you deal with the interruptions, and you know that you can take a point of order as well. In terms of the rebuttals, that during the rebuttals, you're not allowed to make interruptions. So good luck, teams, and we anticipate a very, very riveting match this afternoon.
Thank you, Chief Judge, Attorney at Law, Stacey Ann Young. Let us begin. It's our second match in our quarterfinal round, and we move closer to announcing who the winners are at the end of the NTD National Tourism Debate Competition. We would like to congratulate the following quarterfinalists: Bel-Air High, Mount Alvernia, Jamaica College, Ruseas High, Wolmer's Boys, St. George's College, and Charlemont High. Let's have a round of applause. The event could not be possible without the following support of sponsors: the Tourism Enhancement Fund in the Ministry of Tourism, Deja All-Inclusive Resort, ProSight Optical, Adtelligent Limited, and Royalton Luxury Resort. The 2021 National Tourism Debate is endorsed by the Ministry of Education, the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce, and the JHTA. Our judges this afternoon, you would have already met our Chief Judge, Attorney at Law, Stacey Ann Young, Mr. Robin Russell, who is the first Vice President of the JHTA, and our guest judge, Mrs. Sharon Palmer, who is the branch supervisor at BCIC Insurance Agency. Now, Mr. Russell and Mrs. Palmer both are operators of businesses on the Hip Strip. Our moot for this afternoon, declaring Montego Bay's Hip Strip a sterile zone, allowing pedestrian traffic only, would be a wrong move in the wrong direction. Sorry, that would be a wrong move in the wrong direction. Proposing the moot is Ruseas High, and opposing the moot is Mount Alvernia High. Our speakers are Ruseas High, Giovanni Reed, Jason Dwyer, and Kendall Dawes. Mount Alvernia, Sonia McKenzie, Tiana Dinham, and Shaniel Francis. The first speaker is allowed 7 minutes, second speaker 5 minutes, and the third speaker 3 minutes, followed by a rebuttal, which will begin with the opposing team. The match will begin with our proposing team, Ruseas High. We will now proceed with our second match in our quarterfinal round, Ruseas High versus Mount Alvernia. Let's have a round of applause, and can we spotlight our first speaker from Ruseas High? Thank you. Is this our first speaker, Giovanni Reed?
Yes, miss.
It is. May we have a mic check, please, Mr. Reed?
Mic check 1, 2.
Yes, perfect. You may go ahead when you're ready.
Members of the government and opposition, adjudicators, a pleasant afternoon to you all. Today, we, the government, are here to say that limiting the history in Montego Bay to a pedestrian-only zone, quite frankly, is a move in the wrong direction. Undoubtedly, the opposition is here because they despise basic logic. Today, I will be discussing crime in large pedestrian areas, as well as the impracticality of a pedestrian-only zone for emergencies. My second speaker will be speaking on how this will negatively affect the livelihood of the people, while my third speaker will be helping us to understand the impact this would have on the tourism sector. Madam Speaker, before I get into the matter at hand, let us reflect on the meaning of a few key terms. The terms that we will be looking at today are Montego Bay Heat Strip and pedestrian only zone. The Montego Bay Heat Strip can be defined as the 3-kilometer area spanning from Dead End Beach to Harmony Beach. This area encompasses the buildings and attractions on both sides of the road. A pedestrian-only zone is defined by the Collins Dictionary as an area that has been converted for the use of pedestrians only, excluding all motor vehicles. Now, Madam Speaker, we, the government, say that this House should not limit the history in Montego Bay to a pedestrian-only zone, because simply put, it is not logical. Madam Speaker, in an article, the European Crime Prevention Network stated that, and I quote, overall, the most common hotspots for pickpocketing are those locations where big groups of people are present, such as public areas, more specifically tourist attractions, escalators and queues, public transport, shopping malls, and big public events, which large which gather a large number of people and are attractive to pickpockets. Now, Madam Speaker, what does a pedestrian-only zone have in common with the examples given by the ECPN? People, lots and lots of people, gathered in one place, vulnerable, unaware. You could even call them praise. Now, visitors come to our beautiful island to relax and spend quality time with family and friends. Therefore, why should we allow the customers of the largest earning sector this country has to serve as a feeding pool to pickpockets? Why should we allow the guests of our country and citizens as well to suffer by the hands of criminals due to illogical decisions? Our justice system and police force are overwhelmed as it is. Why make it even harder? The consequences of becoming a pickpocketing victim surpasses just losing valuables or bare cash. The victim will have to go through the tedious process of replacing all those stolen goods, such as smartphones, identity, and banking cards. For a tourist, it is even worse. They would have to find the police station, and reporting the crime is not easy because of barriers such as language and a limited knowledge of the city's geography. Also, the loss of identity papers will have ramifications for the travelers back home. Imagine a tourist stranded in a foreign country because its leaders thought it would be a great idea to make one of the country's most prominent tourist attraction cities a pedestrian-only zone. Finally, and evident, the loss of banking cards will impede the rest of the holidays because of a limited access to financial resources. All of these totaling to a horrendous risk. Why does the opposition seek to destroy the country's reputation as a relaxing destination where families can come and feel safe and at ease from the hustle of their own country? Another issue, Madam Speaker, the opposition plans to make the history of Montego Bay a pedestrian-only zone. So tell me, members of the accepted.
Do you have the statistics on how much tourists gets robbed per year in Jamaica or on the Strip? And how it really affects them? Do you have any statistics to support that, Mr. Speaker?
It is not a pedestrian-only area as yet. That is my point, that making it a pedestrian-only zone will cause those crimes to take place in that area, and that will put pressure on the law.
Can I have a follow-up, please? Oh my God, he got killed. Hearing us? No, it's
Emergencies occur. If service vehicles cannot enter the area to say put out a fire or treat someone who needs urgent medical assistance. Madam Speaker, the opposition ought to acknowledge that accidents are bound to happen where there are a lot of people gathering, and interfering or preventing quick and life-saving treatment to an individual is criminal at the very least. Members of the opposition, imagine for a minute what that it is summer and you are out with a friend or someone close and something unfortunate happens and that person needs immediate medical assistance. However, the ambulance cannot get to them because some genius thought it would be a great idea to make the 1.8-mile area a pedestrian-only zone. Now, the paramedics have to be running through the crowd with the gurney. God forbid, one of the wheels gets stuck between the gravel or a loose stone, and they fall over with the patient. Following these insights, it should be clear to the opposition that pedestrianization has effects other than building strong calf muscles and pretty cities. Madam Speaker, the opposition may seek to come with the argument of carbon emission, but I ask you to rubbish these claims, as the country only contributes 0.3% of the world's greenhouse gases. That is 97.3 times less than China and 46.3 times less than the United States of America. Therefore, that is no solid reason to make the people and our visitors suffer. Why then should the government support the opposition's self-centered argument to turn the history in Montego Bay into a pedestrian-only zone, when the disadvantages of such an action vastly outweighs the advantages? Therefore, it cannot be said to be in the country's best interest. I simply want to reflect on the fact, Madam Speaker, that the hip strip in Montego Bay cannot and should not be limited to a pedestrian-only zone. It is illogical. The government therefore says nay to the opposition's argument, as the government strongly believes with all its intuition that limiting the hip strip in Montego Bay to a pedestrian-only zone is most certainly a move in the wrong direction. And as such, we urge the opposition to retract their half-wit argument. I thank you.
And I thank you. First speaker from Ruseas High, Mr. Giovanni Reed. We will now spotlight Mount Alvernia High, and I believe the person is Sonia McKenzie.
Good afternoon. It is Soraya McKenzie.
Soria McKenzie. Thank you. You may begin, Ms. McKenzie.
Illogical, the government says, but I would like to highlight the fact that pickpocketing is already dominant on the hip strip. And why do they get away? Because the hip strip is not a pedestrian area, therefore they can easily escape into the getaway vehicles. Madam Speaker, panel of adjudicators, were the opponents and other members of the audience. A pleasant afternoon to all. The motion reads, declaring Montego Bay's hip strip a sterile zone allowing pedestrian traffic only would be a move in the wrong direction. The opposition finds it extremely difficult to fathom the mere thought of the government trying to convince us that declaring the Montego Bay's hip strip a sterile zone would be a move in the wrong direction. We believe that pedestrianization of the hip strip is making a big step in the right direction. Pedestrianizing cities is an unstoppable trend at global level, which brings with it several advantages. It not only improves road safety, since most fatal accidents involving pedestrians and motorists takes place on the hip strip, but it also increases pedestrian mobility, which has undoubtedly positive effects on the health of the population, not to mention the economic benefits that it will have on our city and our country at large. Before we proceed, I would like to use this opportunity to contextualize the motion in the simplest way possible. In order to do this, we will scrutinize the key terms. Declaring, according to the Merriam Dictionary, is to state or say something in an official or public way. A sterile zone, also referred to as pedestrian zone, is defined by the definitions.com as an area of a city or town reserved for pedestrians only, and in which most or all automobile traffic may be prohibited. Pedestrian traffic, according to vocabulary.com, means people coming and going on foot. With the definitions at hand, I will restate our stance. Officially stating that the Montego Bay hip strip is an area void of automobile traffic, with only people coming and going on foot, is taking a big step in the right direction. For those of us who are uncertain of what the Montego Bay hip strip is, it is also referred to as the Jimmy Cliff Boulevard, and it is the stretch between the Harmony Beach Park and the Dead End Beach, according to TripAdvisor. It is the epicenter of tourism entertainment, where the town's most popular shops, nightclubs, restaurants, bars, and beach hangouts pulsate with fun-seeking travelers. The area is usually heavily populated with tourists going and coming on foot, predominantly in the peak season of winter. With this being said, why is the government so adamant on trying to convince us that turning this stretch into a sterile zone is not the right decision? Let me continue. As the first leg of this relay, I am tasked with highlighting the benefit that pedestrianizing the hip strip will have on crime and traffic fatalities, just as the Prime Minister did. And my deputy opposition leader, the second leg of the relay, will stress the economic impact that it will have on our city, not accepted at this time. My opposition member, the third leg, will focus on how it aids the promotion of environmental and health stability. And finally, our rebuttal will anchor in your minds the reason as to why declaring the Montego Bay hip strip a sterile zone would be making the biggest step in the right direction. Firstly, crimes such as human trafficking and theft should be the ones we are mainly concerned with, not pickpocketing. These can be significantly decreased if we were to pedestrianize the hip strip. According to the Jamaica Observer in 2021, the Montego Bay hip strip was declared one of Jamaica's top human trafficking hotspots. Reportedly, human trafficking occurs on streets and in nightclubs, bars, or any location that has active traffic can be a hotspot, as people can be easily abducted and forced into vehicles. No, Mr. Government, we are not saying that all human traffickers are well off in vehicles. What we are saying is that studies have shown, and studies done by students of the Harvard University has shown that 7 times out of 10, when people are abducted, they are taken by vehicles. Therefore, Madam Speaker, with this area being pedestrian traffic only, nobody can grab your put in no kingfish again. Why? Because people can only travel on foot. Rats are not the only ones infesting Montego Bay, but theft and murder is also battling for first place. According to Jamaica Crime News, 2 men shot and seriously injured along a section of the tourist hip strip. Gunmen robbed locals and tourists on the Mobay hip strip. Double murder rocks, Montego Bay hip strip. Daylight robbery in Montego Bay hip strip. Operator of a tour bus shot and killed late Tuesday along the Montego Bay hip strip. Breaking news. Shooting on the Montego Bay Strip. Area cordoned off and is now an active crime scene. And what do all of these things have in common? The perpetrator escaped into a getaway vehicle. Well, people, with turning the hip strip into a pedestrian zone only, criminals escape into nearby vehicles no more because we will be there. Now, I know the government is cooking up a rebuttal. What about pickpocketing and people who operate on foot? Don't worry about them because actions will be taken, such as bicycle patrol and more police patrolling the area on foot. Lastly, pedestrianizing the Montego Bay hip strip will decrease the traffic fatalities in the area. The ResearchGate.com website stated that having fewer cars on the road and busy areas will result in fewer car accidents, as well as accidents involving vehicles and pedestrians. Pedestrians can now roam their city without having to worry about being involved in a car accident. I am sure this honorable house can attest to almost being hit by a speeding car while trying to cross the hip strip. In closing, I would like to highlight the fact that Montego Bay is prone to car accidents, and according to the Jamaica Observer, St. James remains one of the most accident-prone parishes because not even Tommy Lee, when banned from him born, could escape. Could escape the injury he went through in the deadly car crash along the Montego Bay Street. The opposition will rest, but only for now.
Thank you both for speakers from Ruseas High and Mount Alvernia High. We will give the judges some time to organize their points, and then we will return with the second speakers. We would like to take the opportunity to welcome our friends in our chat room and those that's logged on our YouTube channel. The National Tourism Debate is sponsored by the Ministry of Tourism, the Ministry of Tourism, the Tourism Enhancement Fund, Deja All-Inclusive, Intelligent Limited, ProSite Optical, and Royalton Luxury Resorts. Our judges this afternoon, Chief Judge Attorney at Law, Stacey Ann Young, Mr. Robin Russell, First Vice President of the GHTA, and our guest judge, Mrs. Sharon Palmer, Branch Supervisor at BCIC Insurance Agency. We're gonna ask for a second speaker. Our second speaker, that would be Jasan Dwyer, to approach the podium. Okay, Chief Judge, are you ready?
Yes, go ahead. Ready.
All right. Mr. Dwyer, you may go ahead.
Members of the judging panel, my worthy opponents, members of the government, and other esteemed guests, a pleasant afternoon to you all. As the second speaker of the government in this honorable house, my task at hand would be to discuss the socioeconomic factors. But first, Madam Speaker, I'd like to define some key terms that will be used throughout my speech. Traffic congestion, as defined by ScienceDirect.com, says that this is a condition in transport that is characterized by slower speeds, longer trip times, and increased vehicular queuing. Also, duty-free shopping, which is a concept of shopping that offers shoppers goods on which import duties are not charged, and this was given by jamaica.dutyfreeshopping.com. Given time, adjudicator, my speech will begin now. As the members of the opposition burn the mid-morning oil and come here today to present false arguments in the House, the members of the government believe that declaring the hip strip of Montego Bay as a sterile zone accommodating for pedestrian traffic only would definitely be a move in the wrong direction. Madam Speaker, the opposition has said that the strip is prone to accidents. However, the hip strip is not prone to accidents. Queen's Drive is prone to accidents, which is the other option that the government is implying for us to use. After all, Madam Speaker, the government is accustomed to the opposition spilling foam or a display of their knowledge continuum. Madam Speaker, Montego Bay is uniquely known as a tourist destination worldwide. The hip strip is known for featuring Montego Bay's finest tourist attractions, as it has sensical, Madam Speaker, to ban the hip strip from motor vehicles exists.
Madam Moderator, is it just me or is Ruseas breaking up? Sorry.
Breaking up. I'm not hearing them at all.
It's frozen on my end as well.
Okay, Russell, we're gonna ask that you restart. Your internet is freezing.
Are you hearing a little?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Members of the judging panel, my worthy opponents, members of the government, and other esteemed guests, a pleasant afternoon to you all. As the second speaker of the government in this honorable house, my task at hand would be to discuss the socioeconomic factors. But first, Madam Speaker, I'd like to define some key terms that will be used throughout my speech. Traffic congestion, as defined by ScienceDirect.com, says that this is a condition in transport that is characterized by slower speeds, longer trip times, and increased vehicular queuing. Also, duty-free shopping, which is a concept of shopping that offers shoppers goods on which import duties are not charged. And this was given by Jamaica.dutyfreeshopping.com. Given time, adjudicator, my speech will begin now. As the members of the opposition burn the mid-morning oil to come here today to present false arguments in this house, the members of the government believe that declaring the hip strip of Montego Bay as a sterile zone accommodating for pedestrian traffic only would definitely be a move in the wrong direction. Madam Speaker, the first speaker of the opposition has said that the strip is prone to accidents. However, the hip strip is not prone to accidents. The other option, which is Queen's Drive, is prone to accidents. And after all, Madam Speaker, the government is accustomed to the opposition spilling foam and bile of false news by producing not enough solid social proof or even economic proof for that matter, hence highlighting a poor display of their knowledge continuum. Madam Speaker, Montego Bay is uniquely known as a tourist destination worldwide. This strip is known for featuring Montego Bay's finest tourist attractions, as it highlights duty-free shopping, cruise line terminals, along with several beaches and resorts. It would be rather impractical and nonsensical, Madam Speaker, to ban the hip strip from motor vehicles and redirect all that traffic to Queen's Drive, where traffic issues already exist. This would definitely cause another increase in traffic in the corporate area, as Queen's Drive is known for having massive amounts of motor vehicles, especially trucks breaking down and having to redirect said traffic to the strip. Furthermore, Madam Speaker, the first speaker said that traffic on the strip is bad. Indeed, I agree. However, it makes no sense to be one-sided in their thinking and not consider our locals that would then have had all that traffic redirected to Queen's Drive. This would clearly be disadvantageous to our people. Supporting this point, Madam Speaker, is that section of Market Street that stretches onto St. James Street. That street is now closed and it accommodates for pedestrian traffic only. Madam Speaker, the government stands steadfast in their belief that if this section of Market Street was still being used by motor vehicles, the traffic congestion leading onto St. James Street could have and would have been less. So now, tell me, how are we supposed to support persons that are clearly unknowledgeable and imply little to no brain power in their thinkings? Furthermore, Madam Speaker, Queen's Drive has been ignored by the National Works Agency for years, and the road appears as if we're still in the ancient days. Does the opposition believe that we're still using donkey carts? Madam Speaker, make we rally back on Bottom Road as us Jamaicans who know about the Jimmy Cliff Boulevard would say. Banning motor vehicle traffic on the strip would stop motor vehicle traffic, yes. But the flip side to it would be that pedestrian traffic would increase. Let me enlighten the darkness of my opponents a bit. There is already a struggle for pedestrian traffic due to higglers on the strip that already makes walking a hassle. So just imagine giving higglers that leeway to totally capture both road and sidewalk. Both foreigners and locals would have no space to walk, which is quite chaotic, if you should ask me. Furthermore, Madam Speaker, the government of this country would have been out of their mind to support the opposition on their nature, as this would give a rise to COVID cases, because persons would be more likely in contact with individuals. Madam Speaker, not only will this be detrimental to the tourism sector, but it will also have an adverse effect on the already struggling health sector. Furthermore, Madam Speaker, this would urge persons not to visit our parish and even our country, as this is something that is taken into high consideration by tourists when traveling to any destination. Madam Speaker, as Jamaica's COVID-19 case tally continues to soar ever so high, our little island has tabulated over 100,000 positive cases as presented by the Office of the Ministry of Health. To add to that, Madam Speaker, Montego Bay sits third on the chart with over 10,402 cases. Moreover, Madam Speaker, it seems to us that the opposition has forgotten that laws are what govern our country. Madam Speaker, it seems as if the Disaster Risk Management Act has gotten the blind eye too. The Act clearly stated, after numerous amendments, of course, that the gathering limit is supposed to be 10 persons max. Madam Speaker, the opposition might argue that this has not been abided to. However, DICE's second rule of law would clear up any misconceptions that the opposition might have. And I quote, "No man is above the law, irrespective of their rank or condition," end quote. The economic contribution that this strip aids to the economy would be definitely stripped. I am surprised that the first point made by the leader of the opposition was not centered around the vulnerable people, particularly those that are wheelchair bound. How would they manage those rocky sidewalks that are crying to be smooth? How would they manage when there is so much pedestrian traffic? I leave those two questions for the opposition to think of. Opposition, who in their right minds would walk from Harmony Beach Park to wherever their destination is on the strip, in their wedding gown to their resort for a honeymoon? Isn't it obvious to you that businesses would be losing? Moreover, who would go on a date with their boo and walk all the way to the Pelican, or even Usain Bolt tracks and records, in their heels, get all sweaty and tired? Well, I'm here to tell you all that this scheme would put more resorts and restaurants into bankruptcy, which would force closure. So just imagine when people cannot go in and out of the strip in their own comfort. Also, we live in a modern day world. Everybody now drives. And the tourists especially are drawn to the hip strip given its proximity to the Stansted International Airport. Where would all these rented vehicles go? Do you expect them to hustle and bustle with their luggages because of your silly ideas? So many questions to ask, and I am positive that the right-minded would baffle at your thinkings. Madam Speaker, luckily the government is here to breathe a sense of fresh air, because if it was only left to the opposition, you would just be packed with sweet sounds to the air, but with information that is not feasible to the public. Therefore, declaring the hip strip of Montego Bay as a sterile zone, which bans motor vehicle traffic, would definitely be a move in the wrong direction. I dismiss them, Madam Speaker. I thank you.
Thank you. Second speaker, Ruseas. Hi, Jason Dwyer. We will now spotlight Mount Alvernia. Hi. And we invite Tiana Dinham to the podium.
Hello, are you hearing me?
Yes, we're hearing you, Ms. Dinham. Go ahead.
All protocols having been established by my opposition leader, good afternoon, everyone. Today, we're here to acknowledge that turning the Montego Bay hip strip into a pedestrian traffic zone only is not only a good move, but it is the best one. My opposition leader has done an excellent job in giving us a substantial lead ahead of our opponents and a clean back change. Now it is my job to sail around this bend and strengthen our lead heading into our next battle change. Before I start, let me tell you some facts about the Montego Bay hip strip. Number one, There are 15 hotels in that area presently, such as the Doctor's Cave Beach Resort. Number 2, it is home to some of the leading entertainment facilities, for example, Coral Cliff and the Margaritaville. Number 3, it offers some of Jamaica's best restaurants and some of the most beautiful beaches, both public and private. Basically, what I need you to understand is that the Montego Bay Hip Strip plays an important part in the Jamaican tourism sector. As a country that relies deeply on tourism, places like the Hip Strip have now increased its value to society. According to an article in the Jamaica Observer, published August 27, 2021, the Minister of Tourism stated that the 12.9% growth this country experienced during the April to June quarter of 2021, tourism and the hospitality industry contributed heavily. These industries experienced one of the hardest hit because of the pandemic, yet received a 330.7% increase compared to 2020. But why are these facts important to our topic today? If we depend on tourism, we must be willing to make the necessary investment to see the results. I have never read anywhere that someone has made profit and never put in the capital. It is quite ironic that the proposition is talking about Jamaica's Montego Bay's finest tourist attraction, yet they won't put in the capital. If we depend on it, we must be willing to put in the capital. By turning the Hip Strip into a sterile zone, we are making the first step into attracting more investors and increasing our cultural tourism. I will not be accepting it. I recently conducted a survey at the Grand Palladium Hotel in Lucy, where I interviewed 20 international tourists about why they chose Jamaica as their destination over other sun, sea, and sand countries. 80% of the participants stated that it was the friendliness of the Jamaican people and the welcoming Jamaican culture why they chose Jamaica. So if friendliness is the true trademark of Jamaica, don't you think that the tourists would benefit, better yet, should get what they're paying for, Mr. Proposition? By pedestrianizing the Hip Strip, there will be more interaction between the locals and the tourists since we're no longer separated by moving parts. Let's imagine that we're on the Hip Strip at midday, the sun pelting on our backs as the sea breeze whisks across our face. The big belly man shouts, Jampuno has returned. One Love is playing, Stamp and Goes are selling, and the crowd of people are blended together dancing. You can no longer tell who is from Jamaica and who is an outsider. That is what we want to achieve, to let our visitors feel like Jamaicans, even for a day. Even our Minister of Tourism, the Honorable Edmund Bartlett, agrees. He said, and I quote, so when you walk through the area, referring to Montego Bay Hip Strip, it will be pedestrian friendly and will enable visitors and Jamaicans to interact freely. It is going to be a transformation like we've never seen before, end quote. No lies detected. By creating this sterile zone, we are reviving some of our dying cultural art forms such as Jankunu and Kumina, as well as providing more employment opportunities for our locals. We could even move some of the vendors from craft market to this area so they can continue to make their living. Economical, I tell you, no more complaints. If you want further proof that this idea is feasible, let's look for some examples. Strøget Street in Denmark is the world's longest and oldest pedestrian-only shopping street that has seen significant success in improving its tourist draw by over 257%. As a result, several other global cities hustled to implement this strategy, such as London, Miami, and Venice, Italy. Currently, Falmouth has decided to not just pedestrianize one street, but the entire center of their town. Just, it is not even a new idea to Jamaica. This change has facilitated a growth in foreign exchange for Falmouth, since the well-known Falmouth Pier provides the one-day visitors who could easily roam the pedestrianized street via horse and buggy and even rent bicycles. I don't know about you, but if the Tourism Enhancement Fund, as well as the Ministry of Tourism, who are responsible for the welfare of the tourism sector, has agreed with this proposed change, then it is clearly beneficial. As I close, think on these things. According to TripAdvisor, Jamaica is ranked 13th out of 200 countries as the best travel destination and first in the Caribbean. So how is it possible that we, especially in Montego Bay, the tourist hotspot of Jamaica, we do not have a pedestrian-only zone? The opposition pauses.
And pause we shall, and allow our judges to get their scores together. And as our chief judge rightfully said, this would have been a heated debate. And I do concur, Chief Judge, this is actually an excellent, excellent match. While our judges organize their scores, I just want to remind everyone that we have online giveaways coming up. After our quarterfinals round, we have prizes from Starbucks, gift certificates from Starbucks. We also have iPhone accessories giving away, and there's also gifts from UK Creations and day passes from the Iberia Star Grand Resort. We'd like to thank our production team, Mr. Jamie Drummond and Mr. Neil Henley, and also our coaches that's with us this morning, both from Ruseas High and Mount Alvernia High. You guys did an excellent job. All right, we will get ready for third speakers probably in another minute or so. We'll just allow the teams to correspond there a bit. Some very, very good points by both schools. I'm indeed impressed. A lot of research was done. We have Ruseas from Judge, you ready?
Yes, we're ready to go, Michelle.
All right. Third speaker, Ruseas High, Mr. Kendall Dawes, you may approach the podium. All right, Mr. Dawes, may we have a mic check from you?
Mic check. Good afternoon.
All right, perfect. You can begin when you're ready.
Madam Speaker, patrons, members of the panel, proposition, a great afternoon to you all.
Sorry, Michelle, he's very low. Can we get some more volume, please?
Is this better?
Yes. Can you maybe move, you personally come forward a bit more? Right. Okay. Do a mic check for me now.
Mic check.
Yes.
Okay. Madam Speaker, patrons, members of the panel, proposition, a great afternoon to you all. I am Kendall Dawes, and I will be illustrating the importance of limiting the strip to a pedestrian only would have on the sector holistically. What if there was a place that had everything to offer as far as the eye could reach? Food, games, drinks, the most beautiful views, the warmest people to interact with? Now imagine having the luxury of being transported to and fro, choosing when and where to walk to. I would also like to address a point made earlier. Please remember, we're focusing on the hip strip in Montego Bay. The interaction with the drivers and other motorists would equally provide the feeling of being Jamaican. The drivers, specifically the Juta company, would also be able to give directions and suggestions based on their familiarity with the area and their level of training. This is why my team and I believe that declaring Montego Bay's hip strip a sterile zone, allowing pedestrian traffic only, would be a step in the wrong direction. Not only because of the impact it would have on the country, but what it poses on the associated sectors. Jamaica Cliff Boulevard, casually known as the hip strip, is a pulsating epicenter of Jamaica's tourism capital, Montego Bay, which is some minutes from the Donald Sangsters International Airport, extending along the stretch of road just above the hotel all the way to the Aquisol theme park. Running for 3,000 meters, it is lined with all sorts of restaurants and bars, almost as if it was designed to showcase the very best of Jamaican culture. To truly understand the devastating impact this would pose, we first have to understand two key terms: what tourism is and what is a sterile sector. And this will allow us to comprehend the impact on the sector. According to Britannica.org, tourism is the act and process of spending time away from home in pursuit of recreation, relaxation, and pleasure, while making use of the commercial provision of services. One of the said services would be the taxi service. Why would you leave the comfort of your home to come and walk everywhere you want to? As it is known, the tourism industry encompasses different travel areas, which allows the majority of the country's population to be employed. These employment places include hotels, car rental agencies, restaurants, tour companies, souvenir shops, and others. Being confined to a pedestrian-only way would directly reduce the revenue on these set areas. Taking it from the perspective of the car rental agencies, that would be a decline in the profit they would expect to see, as they would be redundant. Along with the reduction in the livelihoods, the level of attraction would also be heavily struck. When persons aren't able to pass their vehicles, the level of awareness stands to be reduced. My team and I have scoured the internet and various texts in search of a way to logically explain our opposition stance. However, we were unable to do so. These places are where people thrive. A sterile area would be any area controlled, secluded, and limited, traversed as stated by the Transportation Security Administration. Limitation poses problems, and limiting an aspect of the tourism sector only sends red flags. It would be quite nonsensical to force persons to traverse an area that has a myriad of entertainment sectors, that are sparsely spread in a city known for having a high crime rate which makes the hip strip less hip, reducing it to a regular area where the exchange of goods and services and no additional foreign exchange would be gained, as the tourist would be redirected to another easily accessible place. This goes to show that declaring Montego Bay's hip strip a sterile zone, allowing pedestrian traffic only, would be a step in the wrong direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kendall Dawes. Please, hi. We will now spotlight Mount Alvernia High School, Chanel Francis. You may go ahead, Ms. Francis.
How will they lose the experience that they, the tourists, come to Jamaica for? And it is also unclear to me, my opponents, that you did not have the evidence to support your stance, but let us, the opposition, assist you with this evidence. The first speaker also mentioned that declaring the Montego Bay hip strip will hinder emergency. But as you have said, it is not declared as yet. So how can you know it will be hindered? First, second, and third speaker has gone, but I still have not gotten any evidence to this. But let me assist you. When this hip strip is declared a pedestrian-only traffic, emergency protocol will be implemented, allowing emergency vehicles such as patrol cars for police, fire trucks, and ambulance to utilize the road in case of an emergency, with protocols known to citizens and tourists when entering the area that if there is an emergency, they should evacuate the road, as there are earthquake drills and fire drills that are known to us, so there will be emergency protocols known to them. With that being said, let the protocol that has already been established be observed. Good afternoon to you all. We, the opposition, firmly stands against the motion that declaring Montego Bay hip strip a sterile zone, allowing pedestrian only, would be a move in the wrong direction. Now, people, how can it be a move in the wrong direction when you have already heard the words of my opposition leader, that with a pedestrian-only traffic on the Montego Bay hip strip will not only reduce the numerous traffic fatalities that occur yearly, but it will also reduce the crime that occur in the vicinity. My deputy opposition leader even went on to let us know that our economy, yes, the one we complain every day about, will grow through tourism with a pedestrian-only traffic. Isn't that a move in the right direction? Then accepted.
Where did you get that statistic from, saying that accidents are prone to happen on the hip strip? Can I have the source, please?
Let me assist you. The Observer that I read daily, the newspaper, the Mirror, Western Mirror, Loop News. Don't you read the Mirror as well? Let me continue. Then allow me the third leg of this relay, who will accelerate around the last bend, ensuring a clean handoff to victory, as it will let you, as I will let you know that making Montego Bay hip strip a pedestrian-only traffic will promote a sterile environment and healthy lifestyle. With that being said, it should also be noted that a sterile environment will be achieved if we ban traffic from the road, as motor vehicle traffic is by far the major source of environmental degradation in urban areas, which is the breakdown of environment in towns and city area. A study by the Harvard University evidence concluded that emission from traffic congestion may shorten life, as it laments that carbon monoxide, one of the most prominent exhausts from vehicles, aiding global warming and affect the respiratory system.
Point of information.
Who will go on a date with your boo and walk to Peckham? But as a Jamaican, I would love a walk to the Montego Bay hip strip, taking in all the surrounding. A little walk will not affect me, because by doing this, we will achieve the mandate set out by the health and wellness to get Jamaica moving and ensure a healthier population. Therefore, as I've said, I rest my case.
Wow, what a wonderful match. Chief Judge, I would not want to exchange that seat with you today. All right, we will allow the teams time to prepare their rebuttals. And thank our judges, who I know is having a very, very difficult time this afternoon. This would be Mr. Robin Russell, First Vice President of the GHT, and he's also a business operator of a business, which is the Deja All-Inclusive Resorts on the Hip Strip. And our guest judge, Mrs. Sharon Palmer, Branch Supervisor at the VCIC Insurance Agency, also on Montego Bay's Hip Strip. So I'm sure there are a lot of pointers that they're taking away this afternoon. We would like to thank the quarterfinalists, Belair High, Mount Alvernia, Jamaica College, Ruseas High, Wilmer's Boys, St. George's College, and Charlemont High. We will now take a short break. Jimmy can go ahead with our video and allow the teams some time to prepare their rebuttals.
Feel the pulse, feel the vibe, feel it in your heart.
Sunshine smiling warm up inside your heart. Feeling of pure love, oh Jamaican heartbeat. Dancing to the beat up inside your heart. Heartbeat of the world, oh Jamaican heartbeat. Jamaican heartbeat.
Jamaica.
Can you feel it? Jamaican heartbeat.
Love it.
Heartbeat of the world. Beyond compare. Nothing like it anywhere. Share, eat and drink. We move and dance with you. No matter where you are. No matter where you're from. Join in the party. You're welcome.
Yeah, laugh,
You're
smile.
welcome.
So me say greetings, welcome to one and all, to the land of scat, reggae and dancehall. There we go beach, river and waterfall, and we have a lot of party when the night fall. Hold a vibe, eat something with a drink in your hand. Rum beer, jerk chicken, roast fish, yellow yam. Them say we beat unique, so every boy, every girl come to Jamaica, the heartbeat of the world.
Jamaican heartbeat.
Jamaica.
Can you feel it? Jamaican heartbeat. Heartbeat of the world.
Jamaica.
Best decision ever.
Feel the sand between your toes and the gentle waves of the sea on your skin. Feel the warm Jamaican breeze lift your spirits and nourish your soul. Escape to exactly what makes your heart beat. You will love every moment. Jamaica, heartbeat of the world. Let's go.
Feel the pulse, feel the vibe, feel it in your heart.
Sunshine smiling warm up inside your heart. Feeling of pure love, oh Jamaican heartbeat. Dancing to the beat up inside your heart. Heartbeat of the world, oh Jamaican heartbeat. Jamaican heartbeat.
Jamaica.
Can you feel it? Jamaican heartbeat.
Love it.
Heartbeat of the world. Beyond compare. Nothing like it anywhere. Share, eat and drink. We move and dance with you. No matter where you are. No matter where you're from. Join in the party. You're welcome.
Yeah, laugh,
You're
smile.
welcome.
So me say greetings, welcome to one and all, to the land of scat, reggae and dancehall. There we go beach, river and waterfall, and we have a lot of party when the night fall. Hold a vibe, eat something with a drink in your hand. Rum beer, jerk chicken, roast fish, yellow yam. Them say we beat unique, so every boy, every girl come to Jamaica, the heartbeat of the world.
Jamaican heartbeat.
Jamaica.
Jamaica.
Best decision ever.
Feel the sand between your toes and the gentle waves of the sea on your skin. Feel the warm Jamaican breeze lift your spirits and nourish your soul. Escape to exactly what makes your heart beat. You will love every moment. Jamaica, heartbeat of the world. Let's go.
And thank you for that short intermission break. We have Jamie Drummond in production and Daniel Dehaney as well. Let us know, Chief Judge, are you ready for the rebuttals? All right, for those that would have just been joining us, they moved this afternoon, declaring Montego Bay's hip strip a sterile zone, allowing pedestrian traffic only, would be a move in the wrong direction. And we have Ruseas High, who are the proposals, and Alvernia, who are the opposing team. Opposing and opposing. Chief Judge, are you ready? Not hearing.
About Michelle, we can come in. I don't know.
Oh, okay. All right. I just got a message from Danielle that we can go ahead. All right. So welcome back, and we will start with the opposing team, Alvernia. Alvernia, are you here? Okay. And this would be our first speaker from Alvernia, Soraya. I hope that's Soraya McKenzie. Soraya McKenzie. Ms. McKenzie, you can go ahead when you're ready with your rebuttal.
Thank you. My opponents, first of all, you stated that you could not find any evidence to support our stance. Then you badgered us for our evidence. Is it that the government was not prepared for this debate? You come to war, guns without bullets. I would like to take this opportunity to rebut the points that you have brought forth. You stated that the traffic would be heavy on the Queens Drive Street. But I would like to point out that said by the Minister of Tourism, Edmund Bartlett, that when they are proposing the hip strip development, it will be done after the rescoping of the transportation and road networks. Therefore, a new highway will be made across the street. across the sea, I'm sorry. Therefore, pedestrianization will take place after the new road is completed. Furthermore, this will not be a disadvantage. It will only be a disadvantage to us without proper planning and execution. Secondly, you mentioned the fact that because the traffic is low, the pedestrian traffic will be high. Where is the evidence supporting pedestrian traffic? Let me just ask for that. Second of all, you said that the pedestrian traffic will increase, but I would like to point out the fact that the tourists do not come to Hip Strip to loiter, they come to explore, therefore they will be moving and not standing still. The Prime Minister went on to talk about pickpocketing. I would like to highlight once more, because I said it before, that there is always a big crowd in the city of Montego Bay, and it is easy to get away with crime. Why? Because there's always a getaway vehicle. It is the police that we will implement in this area that will help us to mitigate the crime that is taking place. You spoke about rocky sidewalk and that the sidewalk is narrow and that the tourists will, as a matter of fact, which sidewalk are you speaking of? Because there is no sidewalk on the Hip Strip. Then you went along to talk about people with disabilities. I would like to inform you that people with disabilities will not want, let me rephrase that, tourists with disabilities will not want to visit our country if there is no suitable area that is there to meet their necessities. I would also like to point out the fact that you went on to talk about we are walking on the sidewalk. What is a pedestrian zone? With a pedestrian zone, there is no need for a sidewalk because the people would be traversing in the road. Therefore, disabled people will be able to make their way along the strip, explore the restaurants and the bars that they want to go through. You said that the driver alone can, provide, speak for Jamaica. The driver alone cannot speak for Jamaica. What happened to out of many one people? What happened to a melting pot of culture? We should be open-minded when it comes to converting the Montego Bay Hip Strip into a sterile zone. Because as said before, this is not only the best choice, but it is the biggest step in not the wrong direction, but the right direction. I rest.
Thank you very much, first speaker from Mount Alvernia, Ms. Mackenzie. And we will now invite Mr. Reed of Ruseas High with his rebuttal.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. We have sat and we have listened, madam. But we must have that unity of purpose. Our aim should be that of reaching a consensus that benefits our people, whether directly or indirectly, whether it be short-term or long-term. Madam Speaker, the opposition continues to sway the bob on the bed. The government still believes that making the strip a pedestrian-only zone is a move in the wrong direction. The opposition speaks as if abductions are rather only occur due to the presence of humans. Well, allow me to educate as to what humans do when they find themselves in unfavorable conditions. They adapt, Madam Speaker. They change strategies. Therefore, all abductors will do is change their strategy. They would adapt to better fit their environment. So if there are lack of vehicles, they will find a way. There have been reports of people acting as mothers or fathers of small children and kidnapping them as such as the police. 15 hotels, as the opposition speaker, second speaker said, over a 3,000 meter or 3 kilometer area. Now, how do you expect the tourists to travel to the ones at the very back? You want them to walk the 3,000 meters in, as my second speaker said, heels and their day dresses to make them sweaty before the day? The opposition seeks to fatten the pockets of crafters. That is great. That's a good initiative. But what the opposition failed to acknowledge is that taxi services also depend on tourism. Juta tours, one of many, especially those who, and especially those who run the route. I did not hear the opposition mention anything about the vulnerable people. What about the wheelchair bound? If I have heard the third speaker, speaker of the opposition mention that she would love to walk on the strip of the Pelican. Indeed, I stand that this would have been lovely. However, wouldn't the wheelchair bound love something similar to? Where are they to traverse if there isn't any sidewalks? Additionally, I am yet to hear the speaker answer the question posed by my second speaker. Where would all the vehicles rented by tourists, where would they go? The opposition may ignore this same, but they should acknowledge that tourists are from different countries, and especially Europeans and Americans, they take their disabled very seriously. They have laws and regulations to protect such people. Leaving these people out of the equation, Madam Speaker, is heartless. The opposition, they have ignored the government. They have ignored that our police system is overwhelmed. They say that police would man the pedestrian area. How are they to man the pedestrian area when they already lack personnel? We heard on the news, rather, I heard on the news, and if you watched the news last night, you would have heard of the amount of police officers that have the virus. And they are even saying that that is one of the reasons why the crime rate is so high. Now, where would the opposition get the personnel to man these areas if the police are homesick? Madam Speaker, the third speaker of the opposition make mention of carbon emission. Before, the first speaker of the government, mentioned that, Madam Speaker, the opposition have still come with the argument of carbon emission. And again, Madam Speaker, I ask you to rubbish these claims. The country of Jamaica only contributes 0.3%, 0.3% of the world's greenhouse gas. Madam Speaker, that is 97.3 times less than China and 46.3 times less than the United States of America. To the atmosphere, that is less than a small drop of water in the ocean. And as such, Madam Speaker, I want to reflect. We, the government, stand by our motion not to limit the hip strip in Montego Bay to a pedestrian-only zone, as this does not benefit the country in any matter, or the guests of our country. It would rather make our economy worse, because what the opposition described was not improvement of the economy, but rather substitution by taking money away from the taxi drivers and giving it to the craft centers. I thank you.
And we thank both our teams this afternoon. I know some of you would have been doing exams we were told by your school and your coaches, and you both did very well in preparing for today's match. I'd like to commend the coaches on a very, very good job indeed. We have from Ruseas High, you would have heard Giovanni Reed, Jason Dwyer, and Kendall Dawes, and from Mount Alvernia, Soraya Mackenzie, Tiana Dinham, and Chanel Francis. Our judges this afternoon, Attorney at Law Stacey Ann Young, who is our Chief Judge, and Robin Russell, First Vice President of the GHTA. Our guest judge is Mrs. Sharon Palmer. The judges will definitely need some time to organize and deliberate themselves. So while they do that, we will just like to thank our audience who's with us this afternoon as well, and those who have tuned in with us from on YouTube. And who is there in our audience this afternoon? We have quite a bit coaches. All right, we have some coaches and friends. Where are our coaches? Coaches, are you there? Coach Smith. And we have, I can't make that, it says Emmy, Mount Alvernia High School. Hi, Mount Alvernia, that's you. Okay, Mount Alvernia High School. Right, Coach White. Yes, Coach White. You guys did very, very, very well. Very well. These students are well prepared. And I've always encouraged them, do not go too far, because we always have, from time to time, we have to call back teams to compete for whatever reason. So you guys did an excellent job. Some of our students this afternoon, I know you'll be graduating. How many will be graduating? Let's start with Coach White. How many of your ladies will be returning? Are they all gonna be leaving this term? Coach White?
Yes, final year, final, they will all be leaving.
They'll all be leaving. And we just want to remind everyone that the winners will represent us at the regional finals in March. So I hope, I know graduation is June. I suspect that we will have enough time for that. All right, what about Ruseas High? Where's Ruseas High coach? Ruseas High.
Today.
Good afternoon.
This is Miss Clark. I'm fitting in for Miss Smith at the moment.
Miss Clark Smith, yes, go ahead.
All my boys will be graduating this year. So they're all members of the upper six cohort.
Okay, they did a wonderful job, both schools. And this is what happens sometimes in a competition, that, you know, they graduate and you have to start all over again. So I would just encourage everyone to begin the search now when it's Find Your Society now, so that they can, you know, get some training with the upper six students. They did a wonderful job. All right, I know our judges is gonna take a little time. I know they're gonna take a little time. So I am gonna come off. I don't know if there's anything Jamie can share, and let me just check in on our judges.
Feel the pulse, feel the vibe, feel it in your heart.
Sunshine smiling warm up inside your heart. Feeling of pure love. Oh, Jamaican heartbeat. Dancing to the beat up inside your heart. Heartbeat of the world. Oh, Jamaican heartbeat. Jamaican heartbeat.
Jamaica.
Can you feel it? Jamaican heartbeat.
Love it.
Heartbeat of the world. Beyond compare. Nothing like it anywhere. Share, eat and drink. We move and dance with you. No matter where you are. No matter where you're from. Join in the party. You're welcome.
They laugh,
You're
smile.
welcome.
So me say greetings, welcome to one and all, to the land of scat, reggae and dancehall. There we go beach, river and waterfall, and we have a lot of party when the night fall. Hold a vibe, eat something with a drink in your hand. Rum beer, jerk chicken, roast fish, yellow yam. Them say we beat unique, so every boy, every girl come to Jamaica, the heartbeat of the world.
Jamaican heartbeat.
Jamaica.
Can you feel it? Jamaican heartbeat. Heartbeat of the world.
Jamaica.
Best decision ever.
Feel the sand between your toes and the gentle waves of the sea on your skin. Feel the warm Jamaican breeze lift your spirits and nourish your soul. Escape to exactly what makes your heart beat. You will love every moment. Jamaica, heartbeat of the world. Let's go.
Feel the pulse, feel the vibe, feel it in your heart.
Sunshine smiling warm up inside your heart. Feeling of pure love. Oh, Jamaican heartbeat. Dancing to the beat up inside your heart. Heartbeat of the world. Oh, Jamaican heartbeat. Jamaican heartbeat.
Jamaica.
Can you feel it? Jamaican heartbeat.
Love it.
Heartbeat of the world. Beyond compare. Nothing like it anywhere. Share, eat and drink. We move and dance with you. No matter where you are. No matter where you're from. Join in the party. You're welcome.
They laugh,
You're
smile.
welcome.
So me say greetings, welcome to one and all, to the land of scat, reggae and dancehall. There we go beach, river and waterfall, and we have a lot of party when the night fall. Hold a vibe, eat something with a drink in your hand. Rum beer, jerk chicken, roast fish, yellow yam. Them say we beat unique, so every boy, every girl come to Jamaica, the heartbeat of the world.
Jamaican heartbeat.
Jamaica.
Can you feel it? Jamaican heartbeat. Heartbeat of the world.
Jamaica.
Best decision ever.
Feel the sand between your toes and the gentle waves of the sea on your skin. Feel the warm Jamaican breeze lift your spirits and nourish your soul. Escape to exactly what makes your heart beat. You will love every moment. Jamaica, heartbeat of the world. Let's go.
pulse, feel the vibe, feel it in your heart.
Sunshine smiling warm up inside your heart. Feeling of pure love. Oh, Jamaican heartbeat. Dancing to the beat up inside your heart. Heartbeat of the world. Oh, Jamaican heartbeat. Jamaican heartbeat.
Jamaica.
Can you feel it? Jamaican heartbeat.
Love it.
Heartbeat of the world. Beyond compare. Nothing like it anywhere. Share, eat and drink. We move and dance with you. No matter where you are. No matter where you're from. Join in the party. You're welcome. You're welcome.
So me say greetings, welcome to one and all, to the land of scat, reggae and dancehall. There we go beach, river and waterfall, and we have a lot of party when the night fall. Hold a vibe, eat something with a drink in your hand. Rum beer, jerk chicken, roast fish, yellow yam. Them say we beat unique, so every boy, every girl come to Jamaica, the heartbeat of the world.
Jamaican heartbeat.
Jamaica.
Can you feel it? Jamaican heartbeat. Heartbeat of the world.
Jamaica.
Best decision ever.
Feel the sand between your toes and the gentle waves of the sea on your skin. Feel the warm Jamaican breeze lift your spirits and nourish your soul. Escape to exactly what makes your heart beat. You will love every moment. Jamaica, heartbeat of the world. Let's go.
That is no movement days. Therefore, the foundation of the stance on which my opponents argue has already been broken. I must also counteract the misinformation presented by the first speaker of the proposition that there were only 18 no movement days. As stated by my first speaker, the press secretary of the Prime Minister, Naomi Francis, stated that the country has experienced approximately 40 no movement days. I can't help but revert to the statement brought up by my opponents that 70% of Jamaican tourists stay in hotels. But what is the relevance? It is a known fact that tourists reside at hotels but leave at very intervals.
Madam Speaker, opposition, members of the House, good afternoon. I will be proposing the point that mandatory vaccines, that social distancing protocols, along with mask wearing, lockdown, and curfews, is the way forward to flatten the curve of the virus. Social distancing by itself does not prevent you from catching COVID-19. It is fundamentally linked with other non-pharmaceutical interventions like mask mandate and sanitization procedures, and even lockdowns and curfews. Social distancing cannot be viewed without other non-pharmaceutical intervention protocols, despite what the opposition may want to suggest.
If the opposition is trying to blind us in bushes, but it is my duty to enlighten our darkness and take us out of the bushes. The opposition has come with the sole job of opposing the mere motion that was brought forth. The national curfew will solve the fatality experience during the COVID-19 pandemic. I will ask the opposition, where is the evidence that it will not solve it? Because my team and I has brought forth concrete evidence that it is currently working and it will work. I will continue. I heard one of the
or hurried or badgering as if they're harassing tourists. And that's simply not true. But let's take things one step at a time. The first speaker defines, these foreign transfers, and then goes on to say how they take other countries by storm, but neglects our argument completely. We have outlined quite clearly what our government itself says. These people will not be operating in the same way they do in America, which is one of the key examples he gave, or in other countries. They will only be able to pull from the market of people who would already qualify to be taxi operators. They need that license. And as for the argument as why we are bringing up, our normal citizens, the normal citizens and the
Okay.
A 14-day quarantine can impose.
Thank you very much, Jamie. Thank you. All right, we're ready to announce. We're ready to announce our winners for today's match. We will invite our Chief Judge, Attorney at Law, Stacey Ann Young, who will bring remarks and make the announcement. I'm sorry, she was having some technical difficulties, so she had to change her instrument. Can we spotlight Ms. Young? We just want to thank the students again for a wonderful match, well-researched. And this was Ruseas High versus Alvernia.
I'll thank you guys, as I had previously preempted, having heard both schools before. This was indeed a very, very riveting match. I trust the audience was as entertained as the judges were, because we were able to have a very, very fruitful discussion, and we were very happy that both teams did the type of research that they did to come up with the kind of match that had us at the edge of our seat. It was very fiery, and it's always amazing because we know that Mount Alvernia High, is an all-girls school, but Ruseas being a co-ed school, and to see all the men come out and represent, I just wanted to give you guys an extra round of applause for that, because sometimes the men will get a little bit of a slack for not being involved. So to see a school, a co-ed school, put up a team of men who represented so well, we just wanted to give kudos to you. Again, we had Ruseas coming up as our proposers. Government opening up was Mr. Giovanni Reed, and he, in his opening, summarized what each speaker was going to be. We found that to be very good. He gave good definitions. He defined, so he set the parameters for us for the debate, outlining, where the geographical location of the area that was in reference, the Mobile Hip Strip, and he spoke about the length of it being 3 kilometers, and it also indicated what the sterile zone was, about being pedestrian only. We found that Mr. Reed had a very good pace. He was slow and clear, and we saw him again in the rebuttal, and one of the comments I had was that he sounds dangerously close to a real politician. So, Mr. Reed, You represented your team very well. You spoke about the crime, and you focused primarily on pickpocketing, sorry, and the fact that where there are large numbers of persons gathered in one place, you would have an increase in this particular crime. We the judges, however, found that you spent a little too much time dealing with just that one aspect of it, and you could have gone on to deal with other things. And you also dealt very well though with the emergency services and the lack of access. If they are not allowed to come into that area, and you went a little over time, and because there's a reason why we would have outlined the timelines at the onset, because we don't want to be unfair to others. So when you go over time, the judges will definitely take note. Then we had our first speaker, Mr. Royal Mackenzie, sorry, of Mount Alvernia High, who immediately addressed the main point of the government. So she went straight in for it, and this is something that we encourage. So it seems that, what we have been, the comments of the judges have been taken on board. You immediately addressed the main point that the government came with straight out of the bat, and then you repeated the moot, and then you restated it in a way that would be beneficial to your arguments. You spoke about road safety and pedestrian mobility, and you defined what declaring meant and sterile. So you made good use of the comments you gave us as well, because we would have also indicated that there is how the judges mark. We mark for analysis, definition, and interpretation. So it's important that if you're going to be using certain key terms in your argument, that you define them, and her definitions were very good. She spoke of the Jimmy Cliff Boulevard, the epicenter of tourism entertainment. We found her arguments to be very eloquent. She spoke about the area usually being populated with persons going on foot, and what she did was summarize what the other speakers were going to say. Highlighting benefits was her portfolio, and then she then spoke about what the others were going to come with. So she indeed set up the arguments for her team. She made very good points, however, about human trafficking, and she then, even though the government had just spoken about crime and was focusing on pickpocketing, she focused on what some would consider to be more severe crimes like human trafficking and theft. And then she went for her Observer articles, sorry, which spoke about human trafficking. She went for her Harvard study, and she then found her points very solidly, speaking about the safety being paramount if you did not have vehicular traffic in the region. She then went in to read out article headlines about theft and murder, and we found this to be very effective, and it brought her points across. And she then now gave an alternative to just allowing the hip strip to be used for vehicular traffic, saying that they could use bicycles, it could be policed by increased police patrol, and that these officers would be equipped with bicycles. So that we found to be very good. So from the onset, we realized that this was going to be a ding-dong battle. We then had the second speaker, Mr. Jason Dwyer for Ruseas, come in with a very, 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 very good presentation. Sorry. He had very good tone. His stance was very good. He discussed the socioeconomic factors surrounding the issue. He spoke about the traffic congestion. He defined them. He defined duty-free shopping. I'm so very sorry. He then highlighted the fact that it would be nonsensical to redirect traffic from one area to an area that is already overwhelmed. He spoke about the fact that if we were to open the close-off vehicular traffic, then the higglers would be capturing the sidewalks. And then he brought up an extremely good point that the judges found was very, very, very effective. His argument about the effects of COVID-19 on the discussion. And what he was really saying was that we should pay attention to the fact that we are now in an environment where we have to consider the law as related to this disaster risk management and COVID protocols, and how difficult it would be to govern areas that are pedestrian only if you can't social distance and if there is not the alternative of remaining in a contained space like a motor vehicle. He said nobody's above the law. Sorry. He spoke about the economic contributions that would be affected. For example, the impracticality of attending certain functions like your weddings and going on dates. And then he spoke about the proximity to the airport and how inefficient it would be to try to lug your luggage a whole 3 kilometers without proper transportation. So he was then inviting, in my opinion and the judge's opinion, for the opposition to now come back to this particular argument about how you would treat these issues that would certainly be faced, especially in light of the fact that there are so many hotels on that strip and persons who would have to go to the hotels. You then had the second speaker now, a very strong speaker for Mount Alvernia High School, Miss Tiana Dinham, that came right afterwards, and she had the statistics, full of statistics for us. She spoke about the amount of hotels on the strip. She spoke about the restaurants. She highlighted the numbers. She said it's very important. This particular strip is very important to Jamaica's sorry, tourism industry. She had very, very, very good references to articles. And she says the government needs to put in the capital. They have to do the work. She said that they personally interviewed, sorry. So very sorry. Personally interviewed persons at Grand Palladium, and she spoke about what the tourists said they wanted. So she made it very, very personal and relatable, and it was very good information. There's a lot more notes, but I will probably just send them to the speakers because I'm having a difficulty talking.
Right. Yes.
So I'm just gonna not go into the notes too much, but usually I'd be able to give better feedback. But just to say, because I'm having a difficulty talking, that it was a very, very good match, and you brought up ideas for us that we weren't really thinking about before. So in terms of best speaker though, overall, the judges believe that the second speaker for Mount Alvernia High, Miss Tiana Dinham, was the best speaker for this match. And in terms of the best rebuttal, we thought that Mount Alvernia again delivered the best rebuttal. The only other comment I will make before I go on to announce who the winner is that I said this at the last match, and I will say it again. When you have a very close match, you have to be careful that you pay attention to the rebuttal, because the rebuttal is a whole 100 points. So if you don't go out, you may have very good speakers who made very good presentations throughout the match, but if you have a weak rebuttal, or if you lose significant marks in your rebuttals, you may very well lose the match. And I believe that it was very close up to the rebuttal stage where Mount Alvernia basically ran away with it. So our winners for this competition, this particular match, is Mount Alvernia High with 1,013 points, and Ruseas High managed to get 936 points. But it was a very, very good match, very, very closely contested up until the rebuttal. Thank you very much, and I will send the notes to the individual schools because I'm having a difficulty at this time.
And thank you, Attorney at Law Stacey Young, our Chief Judge this afternoon. We hope that you feel better. We pray that you feel better. And thanks for making it out. I know you were feeling a bit ill, and we thank you for showing up this afternoon. Let us congratulate Mount Alvernia High, who will move forward to our semi-final round, and very well contested by Ruseas High. Congratulations again to both of you. It was a fantastic debate, and we'd like to thank our participating audience who took the time out, maybe out of their lunchtime, to zoom in with us, and those on YouTube. Our production team, Daniel Dehaney and Jamie Drummond, and our judges, of course, First Vice President of the JHT, Mr. Robin Russell, and our guest judge, Mrs. Sharon Palmer. I'm your host, Michelle Tuller. Thank you so very much, and keep it tuned. Stay safe, guys.